Greetings to you, my fellow Nigerian on the path of growth. I want to give us a proverbial story of something that happened. Then we'll draw conclusions from the story. Now, there's this man, he was 52, and his neighbor had a very beautiful daughter. She's 15. So, the man was a teacher in secondary school. The 52 years old man, he was a teacher. And the girl was in school. So, because the father of the girl trusted this teacher so much, he now asked him to be taking his daughter on extramural classes. So when the girl comes in from school, she goes to the man's house. Since they were neighbors, they've always been. In fact, the man actually saw the girl grow up. The girl was born while the man was in that compound. So the father felt free with this teacher, and the girl used to go there for classes. After these classes went on for about 6 months, the girl took him for the man. Magically, she took him for the man. Now, when the bubbles burst, or when the bubbles busted, the man was actually taken to court because it involved police and all that. And finally, he was taken to court. So when the judge, after the whole thing, it was proven that is this man that juked this girl and juke am nonsense. During cross-examination, it was actually found out that the man forced his way through. The man convinced the girl. The girl was a naive girl. She didn't have the strength to resist him, but she wanted to pass her exams. But her father could not afford extramural classes for her in school. And so she was doing a free one from a neighbor who was like a father to her. So somehow, I think, towards the end of, when the judge was about to pass his judgment, he now asked the man, he said, "Why did you do this?" The man rambled, and at the end of the day, he said he actually read of a similar case of where a man who was 64 slept with a 14-year-old girl. And so he felt it was good, it was okay. Now, in anger, the judge, who was an advanced man, had to sentence this guy, triple his sentence, with hard labor. Now, in this story, the question I want to ask us is this: was the man justified in sleeping with a girl that is like his daughter simply because he read in the newspaper that somebody else slept with another girl? If you were the parent of this girl and this man gave you this as a reason for sleeping with your daughter after infecting her with HIV and impregnating her, how would you feel? I believe a lot of us will feel bad, and we will not tolerate this as an excuse. Even though religiously we know, yes, we should forgive, but we will find it difficult to forgive this man for what he did. Now, I want to bring us to something. A lot of times in Nigeria, we'll say the politicians are misbehaving. So it is now irrational for us to misbehave and do anything we like. But can I tell us the truth? If the politicians are misbehaving and it becomes a rationale for you to misbehave, then you are worse than this rapist who impregnated the girl. It is not because the politicians are misbehaving that you are misbehaving. You are misbehaving because your heart is desperately wicked and you lack moral bearing. You lack moral principle. So it makes you misbehave. So what you see outside is more of a reason, a justification for you to behave anyhow. Then you peg your rationalization on those people that are misbehaving. Because the truth is, if you're a noble person, you will avoid evil at all costs. So the point I want us to know is that the fact that our politicians are not behaving aright, it is not a reason for us to misbehave. Rather, it should be a reason to inspire us to live a morally sound life, because the consent, the governed gives her consent to the governors. Or like they put it in the American Constitution, saying government derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. And what is the consent of the governed? Those things that we do with impunity, those things we do without feeling any remorse, those things we accept, those things we want to see. That's our concept, our consent. So our misbehavior is what gives the political class the consent to do the way they are, to behave the way they are behaving. And we're not better than them. Because for every, like Abraham Lincoln said, for every politician, there's a dedicated leader. For every political thief in Nigeria, there are 1,000 waiting to enter that office and thief more than him. So we're not better. We're not better than the politicians. We're worse than them, in fact. So the point here is that we have to live by exemplary life. We have to live by our moral values. Those ideals that we have been taught that it is the best way of life to live. We have to live by them and not pegging our indiscipline on politicians. Politicians are just taking advantage of the fact that the society is anyhow. So when they get there, they behave anyhow as well, because they know nothing will happen. So if you have a moral standard, if you have a moral value, if you're disciplined, if you have principles, live by them. And don't be like the rapist who raped his own daughter, in fact. I'll call her his daughter, because they've been neighbors. He saw when she was born. He actually gave the mother money when she was born. And he was a teacher as at then. Then he ended up sleeping with the same girl he saw that he carried. That's the same thing we're doing when we see that politicians are misbehaving, and so we'll misbehave. So if you're a Nigerian and you think we can make it, my dear, please live by your moral standard, because that's the future. That's the greatness of Nigeria. We can become great if we work towards it. I believe so, I think so, and I know so. I know it to come to pass. Thank you for listening. Greetings to you, my fellow Nigerian on the path of growth. I want to give us a proverbial story of something that happened. Then we'll draw conclusions from the story. Now, there's this man. He was 52. And his neighbor had a very beautiful daughter. She's 15. So, the man was a teacher in secondary school. The 52 years old man, he was a teacher. And the girl was in school. So, because the father of the girl trusted this teacher so much, He now asked her, he now asked him to be taking his daughter on extramural classes. So when the girl comes in from school, she goes to the man's house. Since they were neighbors, they've always been. In fact, the man actually saw the girl grow up. The girl was born while the man was in that compound.